What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm going to be building an outdoor garden bench. It's going to be for a local wedding venue. I'm going to be using some cedar, and I just want to apologize right now. The beginning of the video, I'm going to be a little bit all over the place. I'm going to have a mustache in some of the cuts and no mustache in some of the cuts. I had a bunch of Christmas orders that I had to get done and kind of took precedence over this build, but now I'm fully focused on this. We're going to get it done. I'm going to show you how I do it, so let's get right into it. Okay, y'all, for this build, as you can see behind me, I've been busy with the milling process already. If I showed the whole thing, this video would be like 3 hours long. I'm working with 8/4 stock rough cut cedar from my local sawmill. So I got to put a little bit of extra effort into it. Not a big deal. I actually enjoy the process. But if you guys have 1x6s and 2x6s that are already square and surfaced at your local home store or lumber supplier, that'll be excellent for this project. You don't have to necessarily use cedar. Cedar's just rot resistant. This is going to be outside, so it's a very good choice for a garden bench. Other options could be pressure treated pine. You could use cypress. Those are two other good options. So I'm just going to walk you through. This is like one of the last boards that I have to mill up starting from scratch. This one has already been cut at the miter saw, so I'll just do a quick walkthrough of how I'm getting all my pieces to the correct dimensions for the cut list. So let's walk through it. We're starting off with the planer. Alright, y'all, so we went over the milling process using the rough cut lumber. If you don't want to mess with any of that, just buy 1x and 2x from your local home store and you'll have a lot less cuts to make for this project. Now, I showed using the Festool domino for the first time. That's an awesome tool. I know the haters out there are going to be like, oh, he can only build this because he's got a Festool domino. Now, you could use dowels if you wanted to, or you could hand cut all your mortises and tenons, but I made the purchase on the tool because I know I'm going to use it a gazillion times going forward, and anything that I can add to the shop to be more efficient and increase workflow, I'm going to do it if I can afford it. So off camera, I put a 1/8 inch round over on all of the vertical slats and the top and bottom rail. I don't have a router table, so I just used my handheld router and went around. Time consuming, boring, that's why I didn't show it. But I'm going to get this back section of the bench glued up. That way I can move it out of the way, make some cuts on the legs, the arms, that kind of stuff, and continue moving with this project. So let's get right into it. Got the back rail portion of the bench glued up. Now after any glue up portion of this project, and really any project that I make, I use a small plastic straw to get in real tight on the seams and scrape out any excess glue. I didn't come up with this idea, but I use it because it's effective and it works. And nobody likes sanding, and it cuts down significantly on your sanding time, especially in these hard to reach areas like in between the slats and in the tight round over seams. So use that tip, it works great. You can use it on any project. So this is done. I'm gonna move this off to the side and start cutting these arms and legs. So now I'm gonna cut out the back legs, and the back legs are gonna come from your 5 1/4 by 34 inch long pieces. So you got your big chunky legs here, and measuring these out is super simple. You're gonna end up with approximately a 10-degree angle going backwards, so that when you're sitting in the bench, you can lean back slightly, but not too much. So to lay this out, starting from the bottom, the inside corner, just measure in 2 1/4 inches. Then come up 16 inches and do the same thing, measure 2 1/4 in. Then from the top, you're gonna go to the outside corner and measure 2 1/4 in. And then all you have to do is connect the dots. So from the top, you want to draw a straight line to the inner edge at 16 inches, and then you're going to come over at your 16-inch mark and go from that dot to the outside corner, and that's it. I'm going to take it to the bandsaw, leave it a little bit proud of the lines, that way I can go back and sand it to get it just right. And you should end up with a piece that looks like this. So there's just a slight taper there, nothing crazy, and I'll sand it down, get it nice and perfect, and it'll be ready to connect to the back part that we just glued up. Next up, I need to lay out the seat supports. There are 4 of them. They're 16 1/4 inches long, and they're gonna have a slight curved profile to accept all of the horizontal seat slats that will lay on top and have a slight curve to them so that it's comfortable to sit on. Now to lay this out, this is a 16 1/4 inch long board, so I found the middle, 8 1/8. I marked an inch down, and then I gave myself a 2 1/2 inch space centered on the board because each slat is 2 1/2 inches wide. So the middle slat will lay flat, and the rest of them will be slightly angled and give you that nice comfortable area to sit in. So from either end of the 2 1/2 inches that I marked out, I just drew a line up to each corner. Now I know those are straight lines, but what I'm gonna do is cut this out on the bandsaw. I'm gonna cut all 4 the same, then I'm gonna clamp them together and just run my belt sander through it just to get a nice smooth curvature, and all 4 will be the same. So let's get it done. So the seat supports are done. Now I'm going to move on to the arms, and the arms don't have to be anything specific. Your back legs that are going to accept the arms are 2 1/4 inches wide, so the part that touches the back legs needs to be 2 1/4 inches wide. But for the rest of the leg, if you want to do some crazy design, you can do that. It's up to you, it doesn't matter. So I just drew a slight curve here at the bottom. It goes up a couple inches and then starts curving towards the outside of the board. And then for the top, I'm just going to put an old stain can on the top and trace that for the curvature. That way you have a nice rounded area that your arm can rest on, a nice smooth round surface to put your hand on. When I cut these and sand them, I'm going to use painter's tape and CA glue and connect the 2 arms. That way when they get cut and sanded, they're exactly the same. So I'll cut them, sand them like this together. When it's all done, I'll take it apart. Boom, here's the left arm. Flip this one over, it's the right arm. Too easy. It's a chilly one out here today, but I gotta keep the door open because I'm creating a lot of dust. But I got the arms cut out, I'll sand it down. There's the shape for y'all. Again, this profile was just using a stain can. I just traced it, cut it out. I've gotta lay out all the dominoes now for all of the legs, for these, for the seat supports, and start working towards assembling all of this thing. So the back of the arms are gonna be cut at a 10-degree angle to accept the backer there, but we'll get into that. But I gotta move on to laying out these dominoes, gotta take my time. It's really the first project I'm using this tool on, so I gotta make all my marks, double check them so that I don't mess up the project this far along. So I will get right into that. Whew. It worked. I laid everything out right. Dry fit, looks good. So I'm going to round over everything before I do the glue up, and then I'll glue these up and focus back on the back rail, get the seat supports attached to that piece back there, and get it ready for assembly. Now I understand everybody doesn't have a Festool domino. I didn't have one until like 2 weeks ago. So if you want to do hand cut mortise and tenon, this is a good project for that, because cedar is very forgiving. If you're going to use cedar, it's easy to cut, so it's probably a good project to practice on. But you can use dowels too. So anywhere that I'm using a domino, you can use dowels. 5/16 diameter dowels are probably gonna be pretty good for this project, because if you're using dowels and glue, that's gonna be plenty of structural support there. So yeah, I'm just gonna move on to gluing this and getting back to that. I'm now turning my attention to this front rail, which is gonna have 2 seat supports secured to it. So as far as positioning goes for the seat supports, I took the center of this front railing, which is 29¼ inches, and I just went 9½ inches out on center, and that's how I'm gonna secure these to the front. Now the back of these seat supports is going to be secured to the backer of the garden bench, which is gonna be at a slight angle. So I'm going to need to cut a slight, it should be about a 10-degree angle here before I can secure that to the backer. So I got the middle seat supports all cut, 10-degree angle on the back, and I kind of messed up a little bit on the domino placement. I should have gone a little bit lower. So there's just a little tiny bit, maybe like 1/8 of an inch overhang on the back. So I'm just gonna have to file that down, not a big deal. But those will go on there just like that. So now I'm just putting some dominoes in the ends of this rear backing so that it can be attached to the rear legs. So once I put those dominoes in that, I will secure the top rail, or front rail. So many rails in this project. Front rail to this, glue that up. Once that's all done, then I can do the final assembly. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. The cut list and the SketchUp model will be available on my website. I will leave a link in the description for you. And guess what? It's free. Yep. My first SketchUp model, so it's nothing crazy, but it should lay out how to build that bench with all your dimensions and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully it helps. I plan on doing more builds with plans in the future, but it's time-consuming stuff and I only have so many days off. So if you're not subscribed to the channel, please do so. I don't know why you haven't already. Give me a thumbs up, hit the notification bell so that you know when I drop new videos. I've got one coming up about this giant dining table that I have in the background. Not the full build, but just a little tip on how it made it easier to get that top together. So be on the lookout for that. I think that's it. I'll stop rambling. Thanks again, guys. I really appreciate it, and I'll see y'all on the next video.